On this episode of Win Over Depression, we'll get back to the basics as we explore the definition of depression and discuss just how widespread mental illness and other related disorders truly are. Welcome to the 190th episode, where we provide hope, practical strategies, and biblical encouragement for those navigating depression and emotional challenges. If you've ever wondered, am I just having a bad day, or could I be experiencing depression? This episode is for you, so hang around. Depression affects millions of people, yet many suffer in silence because they don't recognize the symptoms or they feel ashamed to ask for help. The truth is, depression is not a sign of weakness, a lack of faith, or a personal failure. Suffering from a mental illness, it's a real condition that can affect your thoughts, emotions, energy, relationships, and can manifest even in your physical health. Two primary complaints from those who suffer from depression is an upset stomach or a headache. So if you're experiencing either of those symptoms, continue listening and we'll be able to unpack whether or not those are signs of depression in your life. Today, we're going to answer 4 important questions. Number 1, what is depression? Number 2, how do you know if you may be experiencing depression? Number 3, what are some of the possible causes of depression? And number 4, what are practical and biblical steps that you can take to begin to feel better? And my prayer is that by the end of this episode, you'll have a clear understanding of depression, greater compassion for yourself or someone you love, and renewed hope that healing is possible. Remember, I personally have gone from experiencing depression for most of my adult life, and we're talking chronic depression, to now experiencing symptoms of depression from time to time. So if I can get there, you certainly can. Never stop believing, always have faith. When faith is a powerful source of strength, it's also important to recognize that God often works through many avenues, including prayer, supportive relationships, healthy lifestyle changes, counseling, and medical care when appropriate. Seeking help is not a lack of faith. It is often an act of wisdom. No matter where you find yourself today, I want you to remember this. Depression may be part of your journey, but it does not define your future. There is hope, there is help, and with God's guidance, healing is possible. Remember that. With God's guidance, healing is possible. Let me share some encouraging scriptures that will help us in knowing that God is always with us. Isaiah 41, verse 10, "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness." So what does that mean? Be not dismayed. And I know that in my experience and journey with depression, I would often wonder, am I ever going to get to a place where I don't feel so sad almost every day and feel like a cloud is just following me, hovering over me, a dark cloud? And so this reminds me that God's always with us, even when we don't feel him. He cares. He knows what we're going through. He'll never leave nor forsake us. So never forget that God is always on your side. This next scripture really resonates with me because it reminds me of my journey. Psalm 40, verse 1 through 3. "I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit and set my feet upon a rock." And my friend, he will do it for you. If you're sinking in quicksand, if you feel like you're in a pit, just know there's always hope and that you too will get through this. But you have to believe it. That's 99.9% of overcoming anything that's going on in our lives, is believing without a doubt in our heart of hearts that we'll get through it. So let's get ready for today's episode. Welcome to Win Over Depression. I am your host, Tamara Trotter, depression overcomer, author, social work expert, proud Delta, loving daughter and sister, aunt to 8 and great aunt to 3. This podcast is your safe place for healing, growth, and real transformation. In this space, we explore faith, learning how to trust God even when we feel uncertain and overwhelmed. We also confront stress, understanding how it impacts your mind, body, and spirit, and how to manage it in a healthy, sustainable way. We navigate loneliness, processing the quiet moments where you may feel unseen or disconnected, and we unpack anxiety, exploring what it feels like to battle internally while still showing up externally. I am overjoyed that you are here to gain insight and inspiration from someone who has lived with chronic depression for most of their adult life. By His grace, I became well enough to pour into others. God always told me that my greatest testimony would come from my deepest pain. Let's dive into today's episode, but before we do, let me tell you about my course, The 14 Days to Manage Depression. If you're ready to pick you first and better understand your mental illness and how to decrease your episodes of sadness, guilt, or worry, the 14 Days to Manage Depression will equip you with the tools I used to move from being chronically depressed to now experiencing few symptoms of depression. Let me help you get to that place of mental health well-being. Instead of trying to figure everything out on your own, this course walks you through daily steps that help you slow down your thoughts, process your emotions, and begin to regain control in a healthy, manageable way. When stress feels constant and worry won't quiet down, having a guided plan helps you move from confusion to clarity. What makes this course especially powerful is that it just doesn't talk about healing. It gives you practical tools to apply in real time. Through guided activities, affirmations, and intentional reflection, you'll learn how to interrupt your negative thought patterns, build healthier habits, and respond to stress in a way that supports your mental and emotional well-being. It helps you shift from reacting to stress and worry to actually managing them. Most importantly, this course is rooted in faith. It helps you strengthen your connection with God while learning how to release what you cannot carry. I designed this course with you in mind because if I had this tool when I was in the depths of despair and felt like I was sinking in quicksand every single day, but also being afraid to get help, this would have really helped me by letting me know why I suffer from depression and what I can do to get through it. I suffered for so many years in silence. And this course is going to help you because in the privacy of your own home, you'll be able to listen to me as I walk you through my journey and tell you what I did to get to that better place. So don't wait. Start your healing journey today. Just go to the show notes and go to course description and you will find the link for the 14 Days to Manage Depression. So it's time to snuggle in your favorite chair, make that cup of tea, and get ready for today's episode. Grab a pen and a paper if you like to. There's some good stuff coming your way. Joshua 1 verse 9 says, "Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage, be not afraid, for the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest." So when we feel overwhelmed and afraid, when we feel like we just can't get to that place that we deserve to get to, we have to remember how important it is to be courageous because our best days are ahead of us and we have survived up until now. So you have actually made it through the most challenging times of your life because you are still here. So let's talk about what depression is. Depression is more than feeling sad or having a bad day because everyone experiences disappointment, grief, stress, or discouragement from time to time. Those feelings are a normal part of life and usually improve with time or when circumstances change. Depression, however, is a mental health condition that affects how a person thinks, feels, behaves, and functions. It can interfere with work, relationships, sleep, appetite, concentration, and the ability to enjoy life. So it's more than a bad day because you may feel helpless and hopeless, and the things that you normally would do, where you get joy from doing, you just don't feel like doing. So that is a sign that something is going on. Now remember, depression can be hereditary. If you have someone in your immediate family who suffers with a mental illness, you are automatically predisposed to this condition. A lot of times, when you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, that is what causes depression. The brain of someone who is not depressed is much different than someone who is depressed. The brain of someone who is depressed doesn't have as many orange and yellow spots or marks that really show activity. So someone who suffers from depression has less activity and less firing in their synapses than someone who does not suffer from depression. So where the mood is a focus and centered, the person who suffers from depression is lacking the chemicals needed to keep their mood at a high point. So this is through nothing that you have done, through no fault of your own. So just remember that depression is a disease. It is a sickness. And it is the same thing as if you had another condition that required you to take medication. So you shouldn't feel bad if you need to take medication. And remember, I take medication every single day. So I want you to understand that people who suffer from depression, it's not something that is wrong with you. It's a condition. It's something that occurred. Now, you could have situational depression where something happened in your life and it caused you to be depressed. One single event, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, loss of a career, loss of a pet. All of those can trigger what we call situational depression. So right now, I want you to think about what you're going through in your life and whether or not the definition of depression resonates with you. And if it does, continue to listen and we'll talk about the steps that you can take in order to manage your depression. Because when we don't manage it, it affects everything around us. People, friends, situations, and circumstances we look at differently because our brain is wired differently. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Next, I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to answer yes or no to the following questions. Pause me if you need to. Number 1, have I been feeling sad, empty, hopeless, or irritable most of the day, nearly every day? Number 2, have I lost interest in activities that I once enjoyed? Number 3, am I sleeping much more or much less than usual? Number 4, have I noticed significant changes in my appetite or weight? Number 5, do I constantly feel tired or have very little energy even after resting? Number 6, is it difficult for me to concentrate, making decisions, or remembering things? Number 7, have I withdrawn from family, friends, or social activities? Number 8, do I feel worthless, excessively guilty, or believe that I am a burden to others? Number 9, do I feel overwhelmed by even simple daily responsibilities? And number 10, have these feelings lasted for longer than 2 weeks? If you have answered yes to several of these questions, it may be time to speak with a mental health provider or professional. Remember, depression is common, treatable, and nothing to be ashamed of. Reaching out for help is a sign of strength and not weakness. Now let's talk about the possible causes of depression. Depression rarely has one single cause. It is often the result of several factors working together. Let's first talk about the biological factors, which I touched on earlier. Some people have a family history of depression or changes in brain chemistry that increase their risk. Hormones, certain medical conditions, chronic pain, thyroid disorders, nutritional deficiencies, and some medications can also contribute. Next, we have life circumstances, the death of a loved one, a divorce, financial difficulties, caregiving responsibilities, serious illness, trauma, loneliness, or social isolation. We also have environmental and mental factors, long-term stress, unresolved grief, perfectionism, low self-esteem, persistent worry, or negative patterns of thinking can increase the risk of depression. Spiritual challenges. There may also be seasons when people feel distant from God, discouraged, or spiritually weary. Throughout Scripture, faithful men and women experienced deep sorrow and discouragement. So depression is not caused by just one event, but usually the accumulation of many burdens over time. As I think about burden, I remember along my journey with depression that I used to feel like I was a burden to my family and friends because I felt sad all the time and because I never felt like going anywhere. So what I used to do is just make up excuses about why I couldn't go because I didn't want to sour the event or make people feel, like I was just not in a good mood. And I felt like that's why people wear a mask, because there was many times that I was extremely depressed, but I never showed it because I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be rejected, and I didn't want to accept that I was suffering from depression. So people wear a mask. So remember when people say you never know what somebody's going through? That's absolutely true. And that's why we should always extend grace in situations, because life is hard and people are going through the fire. And sometimes there are people who need someone to just be there for them. But oftentimes people who suffer from depression just don't want to reach out. If you have identified yourself as being someone who suffers from depression, that's the first step in getting to that better place, is acknowledging and accepting that you suffer with a mental illness known as depression. That is what's going to help you to get to the healing path, because you recognize and have decided to stop denying that you suffer from depression. So half the work is done when you accept that this is a card that you've been dealt, and you will be given ways in which to manage and to play the cards that you've been dealt. So know that healing happens one step at a time, and you've taken that first step by acknowledging that you may suffer from depression. And then the next step is being willing to get the help that you need. So be honest with yourself, because you cannot heal from something that you refuse to acknowledge. If your symptoms are persistent or affecting your daily life, talk with your healthcare provider or a licensed mental health professional. Some people also benefit from medication when prescribed by a qualified condition. Remember, seeking professional care is not a lack of faith. It can be one of the ways God provides help. Also remember, the 14 days to manage depression will give you the opportunity to assess your symptoms and help you get on that path. Many people just don't want to go in to see someone professionally right away. And that's why I designed the course so that you would have the opportunity in the privacy of your own home to listen to someone who has knowledge and insight, someone who has defeated chronic depression and is now suffering with symptoms of depression. And this will help you to get on that path. And it may be the very thing that you need to identify the issue, figure out what needs to happen, start taking the first steps, and your journey to mental health wellness can actually start today with the 14 days to manage depression. The next step is to not isolate yourself. Once you have come to this conclusion, it's important to find an accountability partner or coach, someone who is going to walk side by side with you on this journey to wellness, someone that you trust and can confide in, someone that you will call and speak to when you are feeling down, and someone that you will make a pact with, that you will work with this person to manage your mental health. You also want to make sure that you are getting adequate sleep, eating nutritious meals, staying hydrated, and getting exercise through walking or doing something fun that you enjoy. Spend time outside in fresh air and get plenty of sunlight. Small, consistent habits often make a meaningful difference over time. Pay attention to messages that you're repeating to yourself. Challenge your thoughts that tell you that there is no hope or that your situation will never change. Romans 12:2 says, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." So stay prayed up. Prayer doesn't always remove pain immediately, but it reminds us that we're never alone. We don't have to carry it alone, and that God promises to strengthen our hearts. I just want to remind you about the 14 days to mental health wellness. Your healing journey awaits. Go to the show notes and click on the link, and you'll be well on your way to the 14 days to manage depression. It will be the best thing that you could ever do for your mental health. If this episode touched you in a special way and inspired you, would you share this with a friend? Would you also do me another favor? Could you take 60 seconds and leave a review on Apple Podcasts? I would greatly appreciate it.